pass right here?
No, I can wrap my knuckles. You sit down. I got it.
You got hard knuckles.
That's my wrapping of the gavel, my knuckles. We will call to order the Oak Island Town Council regular meeting of September 8, 2015. We will have the invocation and Pledge of Allegiance led by Councilor Loman Scott.
Dear Heavenly Father, we would like to thank you for such a nice day, and we would also like to thank you for this wonderful place that we live in, Oak Island, and remind us that we are living the dream that so many people just come down here for a week or a few days just to live the dream that we have all the time. Bless, watch over, keep us, forgive us of our sins, we ask in your name, amen.
Amen. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you, Councilor Scott.
Yes, ma'am.
I'm going to move one of our proclamations to before the public hearings so our kids can get home and get some dinner before their bedtime. It's a proclamation honoring the Southport Oak Island AAA All-Star Baseball Team. Everybody come and stand right over there. Would you introduce the team for us, please?
Sir. Jordan Daniels, Jordan Davis, Gage Stetson, Dave Martin, Landon Lynch, Ford Disbrook, Al Pender, Shelton Bocook, Sean Wagner, Jaden Watkins, Will Johnson, coaches Jason Disbrook, Eric Bocook, and I'm Clayton.
Good deal. I'm going to read every word of this proclamation because I'm so proud of them. Whereas Little League Baseball is a time-honored tradition in the Oak Island community, offering our children an opportunity to learn about the importance of hard work, teamwork, and sportsmanship. And whereas in August, the Southport Oak Island AAA All-Star Baseball Team represented the community and the state of North Carolina in the Dixie Youth World Series in Lexington, South Carolina. And whereas to earn a place in the World Series, the team made up of 9 and 10-year-olds chosen from the local Dixie Youth League won the district tournament in Supply and the state tournament in Lillington, North Carolina. In the state tournament, the team went undefeated and outscored opponents 76-29. The team earned the title NCAA Dixie Youth Champs. Whereas the players, coaches, and parents skipped vacations and limited other typical summer activities to focus on baseball. And whereas the team was eliminated in the 4th round of the World Series, having gone 2-2, the team finished 6 out of 12, representing Oak Island and the state of North Carolina well. And coaches Clay Jenkins, Jason Disbro, and Eric Bocook can be very proud of their team's performance. And whereas the town of Oak Island extends its appreciation to the coaches for teaching more than just the rules of the game and helping these boys and their families make memories that will last a lifetime. Now therefore be it proclaimed that the town of Oak Island officially acknowledges the talents, skills, teamwork, sportsmanship, and successes of the Southport Oak Island AAA All-Star Baseball Team, and on behalf of our citizens, does hereby extend this expression of our pride in this prestigious milestone achieved by players Walker Jenkins, Ford Disbro, Jaden Marvin, Dal Pender, Shelton Bocook, Jordan Daniels, Jaden Watkins, Jordan Davis, Landon Lynch, Gage Sessions, Will Johnson, and Sean Wagner proclaimed this 8th day of September 2015. Congratulations.
Thank you, guys.
Yeah, it is.
I know.
Real serious.
Definitely want to please them.
Get into the state level.
That cleared out about half the room.
I know.
And I don't know how many people know it, but they practice and they play some of their games at Bill Smith Park on Fish Factory Road. Our Public Utilities Department, David Kelly and his crew designed those baseball fields, and that is actually a reuse area for the Fish Factory Road sewage plant. They designed it and then built it, and they maintain it. And we had some expenses on the scoreboards last year, yeah, the first year. And the town of Southport assisted with the expenses of fixing those scoreboards with us. So we have already had a proclamation thanking Southport, but I'd like to thank them once again. Give these guys a great place to practice. Okay, next on the agenda is a public hearing. I think this is the second public hearing to hear citizens' comments on a proposal to regulate the amount of fill allowed on a lot. And we have nobody signed up that wishes to speak. Is there anyone that wishes to speak, please? If not, the chair will entertain a motion. Oh, sorry, you want to, please? Come to the podium, please, so we can hear. And when you come to the podium, please state your name and address. And you have 5 minutes to give your public comments, please.
I'm Laurel Duncan. I live at 137 Northeast 35th Street, Oak Island, on the corner of Holly Drive. We built in 1973, and we've always had a low water problem. It stands under the house, and as construction is completed and gone on, it gets even worse. And I would very much like to have something done to regulate the fill. Heretofore, there's been 2 wooded lots back of our property, and one has just been cleared and a lot of fill brought in, and it's going to just run water right directly into our yard and will go into the house. I don't know what can be done, if anything, but if anything can be done to regulate it, it would be very helpful. Thank you.
Councilor Weinclaw, perhaps, and Mr. Holloman, perhaps our Development Services and Public Works could go by there and check and make sure that they are in compliance before they get it complete. Steve, you know the houses she's talking about?
Yes, ma'am. We've already sent somebody out there today to take a look.
Okay. All right. Staff has already done that. Thank you, Hannah. Anyone else, please? If not, Chair will entertain a motion to close the public hearing, please.
Madam Mayor,
Please.
I move to close the public hearing.
Motion by Councilor Painter. Do we have a second?
Second.
Second by Councilor Reinkoff. All those in favor, please. And it is unanimous. Is there any discussion or action by council, please?
Well, let me start, please. I'm still a little confused about where we are in this process. But based on what I could gather out of what's in our agenda packet, I understand that the recommendation is that we, rather than define fill, that we adopt some text amendments. And basically, the text amendments say that for developments requesting fill over 1 foot, engineered stormwater retention measures such as retention ponds or an underground infiltration system and a soil stabilization plan is required. Okay. To me, that still does not address the problem. What I saw was a problem, I think others do, and that is it doesn't really give a limitation of fill. And I like the fact that I think that definition of fill is still good, and I like the beginning of it, which says the amount of fill added to a lot will be no greater than 1 foot above the crown of the road, or even with the highest adjacent lot, whichever is greater, and will not, and then fill greater than 1 foot will have an engineered fill plan for stabilization and stormwater retention. And then that did not address additional circumstances when homeowners might need additional fill if they wanted to add enough fill to get them out of a flood zone. And also, it didn't really address the issue when some lots had drastic elevation differences and they needed to add fill to level them off. So, and I understand that what they're saying, or what the planning board has said, that the asking that these situations be addressed through a conditional use permit would not be the appropriate way to address it. So, I don't know if we can do this at this public hearing, but I'm going to ask, maybe Mr. Eves or Ms. Stites can say whether or not it's possible to do this if there's an agreement. But I would like to say that we continue on with the definition of lot fill the way it is, except change the part about for lots requiring fill greater than 1 foot for the purposes of elevating above flood and leveling a lot with drastic elevations, so on. Then those situations would require engineered stormwater retention measures such as retention ponds or an underground infiltration system and a soil stabilization plan. And that would be limiting, just saying for the vast amount of situations, you would limit fill as stated in the beginning of the definition. But then for the other situations that were previously stated to need to have a conditional use permit, just state that they need these additional requirements. Is that clear as mud?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right clear as mud, yeah.
Well, as to whether you take action tonight or not, I need more clarification on actually what you want to do. But the purpose of the notice requirements in the public hearing is to put the public on notice of the parameters of what you're looking at doing. You can't, if you feel like these proposed tweaks, for lack of a better word, of what you're suggesting fall within that general purview of that notice, then you could go forward today. I need to hear a little bit more about it, because it sounds like you're being more restrictive than what's being proposed. Is that right?
I don't think so.
Okay. Well, go ahead.
Okay, I mean, I was just saying that leave the definition of fill as the planning board sent it to us at our previous meeting. And then where it says, these extra circumstances would need to be addressed through a conditional use permit.
That would need another hearing. Because, I mean, you're
I'm saying that that's what it stated right now. Says that would need to be done through a conditional use permit.
going to add new criteria to that.
Yes.
Okay. The safer thing is always to have another hearing. I chime in, Lisa, by all means.
So I think what I'm hearing is that Councilor Painter would prefer to adopt the definition that was already proposed, and then also add the suggested conditions that Mr. Edwards forwarded. And then maybe what I'm hearing Brian saying is you could adopt the definition as it was proposed, since we already advertised for that.
Right.
And then it separately address conditions with a separate public hearing.
Right.
So you could at least take the first step tonight if that's
You want
what council wants
to, you want to make a motion to adopt the definitions as proposed by the planning board and then go to the second issue?
It sounds like that you would want that done as part of what you're proposing, as an initial matter is to adopt what's proposed, correct, Ms. Painter?
Well, except for the part about these special circumstances requiring a conditional use permit, because at the last planning board meeting, evidently, it was determined that that was not the proper avenue to address these special situations.
Right.
So I was gonna substitute its lieu of saying, instead of saying through a conditional use permit, to have, to add some additional, steps that they needed to take instead of the conditional use permit.
Through that again, where would you put that as,
Okay, well, if you,
what page are you
okay,
on?
we're on page 1.
I'm there.
Okay, so, it just says that lots, at this, where it starts, the sentence says, lots requiring fill greater than 1 foot for the purposes of elevating above flood for letters of map amendments through filling, leveling a lot with drastic elevations, or for the purpose of commercial stormwater designs, may do so through, and instead of saying through a conditional use permit, say that, say it again, help me out, Steve.
Specific regulations?
These specific regulations,
I think that's what, 1882s for specific regulations? That's not in here.
Are they already designed criteria that she's
Yeah,
referring to?
they're already, basically, instead of saying conditional use, you can say there's specific regulations and put it under 1882, I believe.
I would say in accordance with 1882, whatever the.
And I'd have to verify that,
Yeah.
but I think that's the correct number.
And there's some additional criteria you want to add to that section.
well, I only said the additional criteria because that was what he was getting ready to add into the text amendments.
Okay.
Which were a retention pond, engineered stormwater retention measures. Now, are those measures the same as, or in more than, this is my question to you, are those measures that you listed, such as retention ponds or an underground infiltration system and a soil stabilization plan, are those measures the same as, or are they greater than, in addition to, the measures that you're talking about when it says fill greater than 1 foot will have an engineered fill plan for stabilization and stormwater retention?
That would be the same as,
The same as.
right. Those were conditions that we were presenting to the planning board to propose as specific regulations.
Well,
You can do, if I understand you correctly, you can, tonight, the board can take out through a conditional use permit and insert in accordance with, and we have to verify that section, that's fine. But if we're going to start adding additional criteria somewhere, number one, you'd have to do that as a separate portion of the ordinance, not in what's in front of you right now, which you could do. But it sounds like you're halfway there right now, if I'm understanding you correctly, right?
So if you just take out through a conditional use permit and put in accordance with section 1882 of the, with section 1882 of these.
Right.
Is it 18-82? Well, we need to verify that if we're going to make that tonight, that's.
And what does, just specifically does it say?
Specific regulations?
What 1882, what exactly does it say?
They're conditions that apply specific to certain types of development, like your swimming pools, your fencing, your docks, your piers. So what you'd have is specific regulations in there for fill. And so whenever you fill greater than 1 foot, you would go to the 1882 and look at those standards for fill.
But what are those standards for fill?
Well, the ones that we were proposing are what's in here.
Be added to it, right?
That would be added to it. Those were
The engineered
conditions that we're still
stormwater
taking.
retention, okay,
Right, we're still working with planning board on those specific regulations.
okay.
Well, it's in 18666 is what those, we're talking about, or something additional?
Well, I mean,
Oh, that's,
if Steve wants to place in 1882 what Ms. Painter's suggesting, and it's not already in there, then you're not going to accomplish, you can refer it to it tonight, but until it's amended to be placed in 1882, you're not going to accomplish what you want to accomplish yet.
Because it's not in there yet, right?
Right.
Will we have to have a separate public hearing to amend 1882?
I think so. I mean, that's not even referenced in here.
All right, here's my question.
And it can be done. It can be done.
Okay, here's my question. If we adopt this definition of fill, which says that it will, that the amount of fill is limited to no greater than 1 foot above the crown of the road, or even with the highest adjacent lot, whichever is greater.
Period, right?
If we adopt that definition and then say that any, basically for most all situations, we're gonna try to limit the amount of fill. Now, there might be other circumstances that where fill needs to be at more than 1 foot. But it would only be in, nevertheless, we're only going to allow, extra fill for certain circumstances.
I don't read it as it's limiting the fill to 1 foot. It's limiting it to 1 foot above the crown of the road. It could be 4 feet of fill to get that to 1 foot above the crown of the road.
I understand that.
Okay.
But it's still limiting fill. It's trying to limit the fill. And then when it is, and the purpose, of course, of letting it be as high as in an adjacent lot is so that it won't be lower than the adjacent lot and require, so water would run off down that way if they did that.
Right, and as Tim was saying a second ago, that we actually did reference 1866, 666, and 655, which is in the packet, and that falls under the stormwater section. So we could just change it to those specific sections.
Depending on what she wants to, if she wants to tie it back to those two sections, you can, but if are you gonna add anything to 666 or 655?
Well, the proposed language was.
And above and beyond what's proposed
No,
already?
not above and
Okay.
Yeah, it's got already proposed in those two.
You can reference it back, and that's fine, and do it all tonight.
So that the stormwater dam may do so in accordance with section 18666 and 18655,
Right.
instead of
Instead of,
saying a conditional use permit. Take that out and reference the other two.
Take out may do so through a conditional use permit and insert in accordance with sections 18-655 and 666.
Okay.
Steve, you.
Well, but would they need a conditional use permit?
No,
No.
that's
they're
not
taking
the
that out.
proper way to go about it.
So it would just say may do so in accordance with, and take out the words through a conditional use permit, correct? Okay,
Including that language, right?
in accordance with, okay. Six 655 is 666.
All right, I then make a motion.
Let's see if anybody else have any questions about the amendments or discussion? Okay, make a motion.
I make a motion that we adopt the definition of fill modified as we just stated, in accordance with, rather than with, through a conditional use permit, substitute in accordance with section 18-666 and section 18-655.
Does that suffice, Mr. Eads? Okay. Have a motion by Counselor Painter. Do we have a second by Counselor Weinkoff? Any further discussion, please? All those in favor,
Adopt the
please?
changes to These two too, right?
And it is unanimous.
Madam Mayor,
Please.
I also need to make a motion to approve the proposed amendments to section 18-666 and 18-655
Okay, we have a
as
motion
proposed.
as proposed in the packet. Second by Counselor Weinkoff. All those in favor, please. And it is unanimous. Okay.
Steve.
Got through that one. Okay, next is a public hearing To receive citizen comments on the proposed amendments to the town's ordinances regulating itinerant merchants. And itinerant merchants is the produce stands and the guy that does the hammered copper and stuff. No one has signed up to speak on that public hearing. Is there anyone that wishes to speak, please? If not, Chair will entertain a motion to close the public hearing, please.
Madam Mayor, I move to close the public hearing.
Motion by Councilor Painter. Do I have a second? Second by Councilor Medlin. All those in favor, please. And it is unanimous. Any action proposed by the council, please? Go ahead. Might as well. You're doing good.
Well, I don't know. As this came out, we also got in our mail a proposal from the Oak Island Business Alliance. And the proposal was basically for the Oak Island Business Alliance. They wanted to open what I guess is a specialty market on the corner of Oak Island Drive and Womble Street, the northwest corner, on Fridays and Saturdays from spring through fall.
Well, I've discussed this at length, and I believe, Mr. Holloman, or didn't we decide these particular amendments here for itinerant merchants, and Steve, you and I had a long conversation about it, is separate from what the Business Alliance is proposing. We can adopt these amendments, these proposals for itinerant merchants that want to stay out there on a Monday and a Tuesday and a Wednesday, and then council can consider later the permit with standards. Steve is going to propose later a proposed permit with standards for that particular issue for the Business Alliance. It doesn't have anything to, it's not affected by this particular proposal.
Well, why is it not a specialty market?
Well, no, it is, but what we're discussing this evening is separate from what the Business Alliance is proposing.
Well, what we're talking about here is, I mean, in here, they discuss, there's a definition of specialty market. They say that there is a, rules that apply to specialty. Thank you, Steve. Come on, help us.
All right. What we've been addressing is, first of all, getting rid of the privilege license tax out of the language. Now, conditional use permits have always been required for your open air and farmers markets. And we actually created that a few years back and got a conditional use permit for the town to utilize the field back there. We have not discussed taking the open air and farmers markets, which are also called specialty markets, and I was just changing the name, and taking them out of being required to be a conditional use. Currently, they are allowed in your CB, your CR, and your CLDs, all as conditional use permits. Now, 3 years ago, prior to this, you couldn't even have one, and of course, we put it in, now it's conditional use. Now that someone wants to open one up, they feel that it's too restricted to do that, so now they're requesting that we look at the regulations again and permitted with standards, come up with some current regulations that will be set in place, like the number of parking spaces per vehicle, when some of that language is in here. And actually all that language is in here. That could be incorporated in as standards that has to meet or be met for these specialty markets, which could be your flea market, an open air market, a farmer's market. It's when you get more than one merchant or vendor gathered on the same site. And that's what Mr. Beers was proposing to do, which the current rules require it to be conditional use.
Well, let me ask this question. So I see on the page 5 of this proposed ordinance that no business license would be issued without the direction of the board. Is that us?
Yes, ma'am. See, that's still part of the existing code, and then that could be one of your standards. I mean, it's not necessarily conditional use, or we can take the specialty markets out, but it also addressed like beach bingo places, carnivals. All that was already existing in there, and I felt you may still want that discretion. I didn't want to take that out without y'all discussing it.
While you're discussing that particular section, the first sentence under that, before paragraph 1 says, "No shall be issued by Development Services." No what?
Where do you see
Now, I
that?
did send I messed up and sent the wrong,
Is that a new one?
Oh, you got a new one.
yes, I apologize. It's no
did I?
license. I had reread it, did a revision, and before I got it, and I sent Lisa the wrong one. My apologies.
Okay.
But it's no license shall.
Here, let me just say what I'm objecting to. I think our produce markets are, our produce vendors, we all love them, and I want to keep them. When we are going far afield from that, and we get to the point of having dresses hung on on a whole, nearly a whole lot on a corner on Oak Island Drive, and then now we're talking about a flea market on Oak Island Drive. I don't like that. And I think that will cause, I don't think that's,
Well, then, you may want to still look at that as a conditional use then, and come up with, I think there are already conditions for flea markets and open-air markets, and we'd have to look at those conditions. But that, you've already permit that is now permitted, your open-air markets, your farmers markets.
okay, so let me just make sure then I understand one other thing, which says, business license is required. So as long as it's an itinerant, that applies to itinerant merchants, peddlers, vendors,
And new businesses.
and new businesses, okay?
I've been opening businesses without getting permits and fire permits and.
So all of those need to have a business license, except if they are located in a specialty market.
Right, vendor, the specialty market, the manager, the operator of the specialty market holds the license for any vendor that works underneath his license.
Okay. Well,
I think we discussed, I mean, if you can't start specifying what the itinerant merchants can sell. I mean, do you want them to allow the guy that has the hammered copper on the card, and do you want to allow the boiled peanuts? So if you, and shrimp, fresh shrimp in a cooler. So if you start getting into that, then you're going to get into a sticky wicket of stating what can and cannot be sold by the itinerant merchants, correct?
Correct.
Okay.
so there is no way that we can limit it to homegrown, homemade,
How are you going to enforce that?
With
Don't
the
do it with
business
the
license.
We don't do it with our market at the soccer fields. That's not enforced. There's a bunch of stuff there that's sold from stuff they bought wholesale and they're selling at retail. That started out as a farmer's market. It started out as handmade, homegrown, or crafts within 100 miles, but that's not enforced.
well, okay, I get it, but I just, I'm wondering what controls can we put on this? Because wherever we've got a vacant space on Oak Island Drive, if anybody is just gonna sell anything and everything, and from when to when,
Conditional use.
Yeah.
That's your biggest
It'd have to be a
control. It's a lot more bureaucratic in nature as far as the applications and everything, but your biggest control would be a conditional use, and one of the conditions is whether it's harmonious to the surrounding environment, so on and so forth, but you're gonna be looking at a lot more applications up here.
And we're talking about
And
just
harmonious, according to whom? The board, the development services, the manager? Who makes that decision?
I mean, we'd have to codify that, but I would suggest that the ultimate decision be the board's.
Yeah.
Now, we're talking about conditional use for each vendor?
That's how I'm hearing what they're talking about.
Well, she just
I
asked
think we're
what's the best
talking
way
about
to control
conditional
it.
use
That's-
for markets, and then the itinerant merchants would be covered by the conditions on where they can set up. That's X feet out
But
of
I
the
want
right
to
of
make sure,
way.
I don't think we're talking about
But
each
Carol, I think
individual.
Carol's concern is the itinerant merchants as well.
It is. I mean, I just see this thing going out of control. It pretty much got a bit out of control this summer.
I don't understand why that, I heard from a lot of people that like stopping by. And the lady with the dresses thought she was not allowed to put them there anymore. And she quit, and then she found out she could under our standards now, and there's a lot of people.
And she complied with the standards.
Right.
She was very pleasant. She came through and got her permits in the time frame that she was allowed.
Right. And even though that may aesthetically be, you may not agree with stopping and getting 2 dresses for $20, she gets a lot of business. There's a lot of people that like that there.
Under
And
this, they
it's
still-
not the same people that are going to go to a specialty store.
They still have to get a letter of permission from the owner, meet setbacks,
Correct. We-
follow the hours of operation,
Right.
anything I'm leaving out.
And apply parking, and we're gonna limit the sign, this also limits the amount of signage. Because, the signage that they're putting out, 5 signs that says peaches.
Yeah.
One sign that says peaches, I think, should be sufficient. But, so we're giving them the same regulations that we impose on our brick and mortar businesses. They're allowed 2 roadside signs, and they'll be able to have 2 signs out there to advertise their business.
And
So are some towns just blanket say none of this,
Yeah.
Yeah.
period?
Yeah,
And if they say none of this period, even the farmers
right.
cannot go there. Is that true?
Well, no, I believe there are some, that there's an I don't have all this memorized, quite candidly, but I don't think you can completely exclude true farmers. I believe there's a North Carolina general statute that directly protects them.
They would have to probably
That's under
provide
that
their-
Article 32, 168.
Right.
So whether you
But that's
disallow
not-
everything
that's
else,
not
you
me
can't,
going to my backyard pulling a few cucumbers and going, I mean, that's,
But
it's a
still-
higher, I mean, you gotta prove you're a farmer, but
I think the county stopped it, 4 years ago,
Yes.
completely.
And I've
All over
talked
county.
to,
would you consider the
I'm
hot?
not advocating that, I'm just saying that it can be done.
So if we prohibited it other than the farmers, then the guy with the hot boiled peanuts is gonna just have to leave. And the guy with the hammered copper fish things is
some
gonna
of
have to
those do
leave.
fall under that Article 32, that doesn't have to meet the itinerant merchant laws, but I think they were processing them through vendors. The farmer that sets up on his own land and sells them, there's nothing you can do with him.
Right.
But as to, I don't know, I did talk to Helen Bunch out at the county as to seeing how they restricted it to where they couldn't allow them anymore, and she said they basically zoned them out.
And a lot of that with the county was areas, and it was countywide. I don't know how many of you remember, if you went up to 11, went up along Reese Road and turned right up there at 211, about halfway before you get to the bridge, that vacant area right there, sell puppies. I mean, they had Rottweiler puppies for sale, and they were setting up and selling whatever. So the county
It's all-
disallowed that, zoned that out of those certain
It's all
areas.
based off of public safety,
Yeah.
putting people in harm's way, pulling on and off the road.
Yeah.
And how are we gonna prevent people from selling puppies? We talked about this one time, regulating this by location and on the soccer field, having everybody out there and they could just have a great big blast and flea markets and dresses and just carry on.
And puppies.
And now, but no, they didn't want that. No, we don't want that. And so we acquiesced into letting them go back on Oak Island Drive. And I share exactly what Carol Painter's saying. At a certain point, you're going to have so many little businesses and so many stores that our merchants are going to be subsidizing these people by paying property taxes and by paying insurance and police and fire protection, and them springing up overnight not having to pay anything. So I agree with everything she says.
Most of these itinerant merchants, I don't know about the lady with the dresses, and I don't know about the guy with the boiled peanuts. But it's either farmers that pay a lot more in taxes, and.
Not here.
Maybe not to the town of Oak Island, but to our county, our state, and federal taxes to support their farms. And they bring their produce over here when they grow it at their farm. Most of their farms are soybeans or something. They pay a lot more than somebody that is renting an office or a store. A lot more.
Irregardless, I'm just saying we're opening the door for a nightmare here.
What if we limit it to the summer season only?
I think that's what,
Or limit it to the number of vendors. You only issue so many licenses.
Well,
First
if we
come,
can
first
do
served.
that, that would be good, too, in addition to limiting to summer season.
From Labor
Then we
Day,
couldn't get the
Memorial Day to
pumpkins.
Labor Day.
at Thanksgiving.
Well, I think you can drive up Long Beach Road and get you a pumpkin.
Collards, the gentleman with the collar.
Well, would the board be inclined to approve as is tonight, and then we'll come back with a few tweaks as far as time of year next time, or go ahead and?
Or
add
the
that?
number.
Or the number of permits?
Well, the season's over. I don't see any need to approve anything tonight if you're not satisfied with it and then
Yeah.
repair it. I'd rather come back with your recommendations and put them in there and.
And I would like to allow them in the spring and summer, because they'll set up April and May when the weather gets warm enough and the produce starts growing. I have heard from hundreds of people that like having our little eclectic vendors up and down Oak Island Drive. It has not been a major problem. There's been 2 complaints. And I just really think that we are going way above and beyond what this issue requires. It's gotten too heavy because of 2 complaints and aesthetically disagreeing with something somebody is selling. There's a whole lot of people that like it, even though you may not.
I like it.
I don't want to regulate them out. That is one of the
I
eclectic
agree.
things about the island that everybody comes for.
I think maybe some potential controls. Let's see what we might have some potential controls when we see it
Limit
next
the
time.
number.
I have
See
an
what we
idea.
want to vote on.
I have an idea. Let the council approve the standards that you set here for the itinerant merchants and add language that any merchant can be disallowed, or any merchant selling in certain items, maybe live animals may not be sold, that kind of stuff, at the discretion of the manager.
I think we need to table this and bring it back another time.
Okay.
But I'll look at a couple options here.
Okay,
The-
bring some potential controls.
Number of permits,
Number of permits,
seasonal, Memorial
seasonal.
Day to Labor Day.
and
Maybe
if
a-
there's a way to not allow live animals.
Yeah.
And
Well, you don't want them selling puppies on the side of the road.
I don't
I
want
agree
them
with
selling
that.
dresses on the side of the road either.
Okay, so it's council's consensus to take no action on this evening, other than to request additional language from the manager and development services, correct?
Was there anything else in there that y'all, I mean, I did put the 500 feet or the same block for competing businesses.
I like all of that.
Okay.
Everybody else like all of it?
And the third violation, that was what wasn't in the packet that y'all sent. I put in the blurb about after the third notice of violation, your license could be revoked. Now, there was already language in there where they had the appeal process if you revoked their license. During appeal, we couldn't revoke their license until they were heard, and then once they were heard, then we could take their license. But once they could still come back and get another license. It's just gonna be an inconvenience for them to take their license, revoke their license, and then go through the appeal process, and then reapply for a license.
But you have to give them that
We gotta give them that.
advantage anyway.
Yes.
Okay.
Maybe if there's some way to come up with, and I can't think of it right this minute, but some way to, up the fee or something if they want to go outside of the window of, that we're going to, if there's any way to.
Well, I gave them 7 days a week between the hours of 7 a.m. to 10 p.m. And the reason I put those hours in there is that's what was originally in the ordinance, other than the number of days that they were regulated. So now they've got 7 days a week between the hours of 7 a.m. to 10 p.m., and then between 10 p.m. and 7 a.m., they have to secure everything with either inside the little display thing or remove it from site.
One thing we could add too is, they can't have multiple locations or limited to, like, some of them have.
Well, if we limit the number of well, we could say only one permit issued to one vendor.
One vendor, because you might have one vendor trying to
So-
sell something in
to
3 different places.
Monopolize the,
Yeah.
all right.
That's good. Okay, Madam Clerk, can we just have a consensus for council to table this issue until the October meeting? Or do we have to have a motion?
If you want specific to come back to the October meeting, then I would prefer a motion, yes, ma'am.
Okay. And we have closed the public hearing, so since they're talking about some amendments to it, should we reopen the public hearing if we're going to defer it to October in case someone wants to discuss those amendments?
Well, I mean, it's up to council. You've already had 2 public hearings on it, and it's up to you
Okay.
whether you,
Okay. Okay, motion by council to table this item until the October meeting with a request from the attorney, the manager, and Steve Edwards to bring back language as was discussed. Have a
So
motion?
moved.
So moved by Counselor Painter. Second, Counselor Medlin. All those in favor, please. And it is unanimous. Okay. Council reports. Counselor Weinkauf, please.
Yes, Madam Mayor, I have a couple things. The first one was Labor Day, the craft fair. What a big turnout. This town was packed, the whole field was packed continuously all day. And it was a great job by Parks and Rec again, doing the job they always do to make sure everything runs smooth. And the rest of the town employees have made sure the town was safe over Labor Day weekend. There was a huge crowd down here, and they did an absolutely wonderful job. The second thing is, I cannot speak for my other council members, but I've got to say something. I was personally attacked on social media. Social media is a great thing. It does a lot of good things, but people like to spread rumors and untruths. This person was addressed and asked for us to see the evidence, which they had no evidence. And I'd like to say, if anybody sees anything on social media, ask them for the evidence. Let them see it. I'll give you my phone number. It's 278-3326. If anybody has any question and wants to see anything this town does, call me. I'll get it for you. Because I'm not going to tell anybody nothing but the truth that goes on in this town. That's what I've always done. That's what I'll continue to do. Thank you.
Thank you, Counselor Weinkauf. Counselor Painter.
At our meeting of the Brunswick Shoreline Protection, formerly Brunswick Beaches Consortium, just so we've got a
Still a
frame
good
of reference,
organization.
in August, the county was, the county commissioners approved $50,000 in the county budget for the purpose of a person, either a consultant or maybe a full-time person, to the Brunswick Shoreline Protection Group is in the process of trying to figure out how that person needs to function. One of the goals is to get a sustainable revenue stream for beach nourishment projects, and as part of that revenue stream, we would like to see 50% of projects being funded by the state. And so the Brunswick Shoreline Protection is, we're talking about what that position would be responsible for. Would they be responsible only for carrying that message to our General Assembly and carrying it strongly, supplemented by representatives from municipal and county government? Or would that person also be responsible for helping coordinate actual beach nourishment projects, maybe across the county? And so that was a major point of discussion at our last meeting, and we I'll tell you how it comes out. We've got another meeting scheduled for September 30th.
Good deal. I like that. Council Medley? No report, Council?
No report.
Council
No
Cole?
report.
No report. Real quick, October 3rd and 4th is the Cycle NC, and this year, there's over 1,100 participants that are going to be ending Cycle NC here on Oak Island. They're supposed to let us know in the next week or two the exact date, whether it's going to be the 3rd or the 4th. If you don't mind, make sure that it goes out in the Tribune and the Pilot and the Star News. Give them public notices or something. That's a good deal. It's going to bring a lot of people, a lot of people, cyclists, to our town, and they'll be staging down at the soccer fields, and let's all, when they get here, make sure that we welcome them. And I'd like to suggest at next year's Arts and Crafts Fair that we have at 46th and Oak Island Drive, Southeast 46th, if we don't mind, have a police officer presence there to help control traffic. My husband and I were walking our dog, and we went up to Oak Island Drive on 47th, Northeast 47th. And we had to go, we had to first go, into the middle lane. Well, when we were crossing, the people coming from the right, she stopped to allow us to cross. Well, behind her was a guy pulling a boat. He just barely missed. He went off into the other direction. It was that busy. I mean, the traffic surrounding this entire block was intense. So maybe we can have a police presence next year just to kind of be there and help. And that is my report. Next is presentations, proclamations, and recognitions. And we've already done the Dixie Youth AA baseball team. Next is a presentation on the Brunswick County Tourism Development Authority by Mitzi York.
Good evening. Thank you for inviting me tonight or allowing me to come speak to you about the Brunswick County Tourism Development Authority. I wanted to take a few minutes to kind of let you know some of the things that we've been working on, but also be mindful of the fact that you have a full agenda and try and cover some things fairly quickly. The Brunswick County Tourism Development Authority was established in 1997, and we have a one-line mission statement in our legislation, and that is to promote tourism to Brunswick County, and our job is to market and bring people here, is basically to share the dream of Brunswick County to the visitors so that they know that we're here. We have a 10-member board that's appointed by the Brunswick County Commissioners, and we're funded by 1% countywide occupancy tax. As you know, each of the municipalities have their own occupancy tax. We only receive the 1% that's levied by the county. So our job in marketing Brunswick County involves a number of different things. It's marketing, it's advertising, it's public relations, it's social media, and hopefully we do it in a positive way. It's our website, it's our publications, it's our email marketing programs. And I did bring a copy of our vacation guide, which I think each of you received. Our vacation guide won first place in the state for best visitor's guide. We produce 100,000 of these each year. We also have a golf guide, which also won first place in a niche marketing category. And this year, for the first time, we did a wedding guide. And I didn't provide copies of all of those because we produced these in a much smaller quantity than the vacation guide. And sometimes I'm asked by people, well, I've never seen your vacation guide. And that's because our job is to bring people to Brunswick County. And so if you're already here, you're not our target market, and we don't distribute the books locally. I did want to share with you some news that you may have read in the paper, you may have seen our press release, that last month the governor released a press release that included the fact that Brunswick County ranks 9th in the state in 2014 when it comes to money spent by tourists in our community. Visitors spent $496.32 million in Brunswick County. That's up 5.47% over 2013. The total payroll generated by tourism was $91.36 million. We employed over 5,000 people, and state and local tax revenues generated by tourism was $51.94 million. And if we had to replace that income or that tax revenue from visitors, each county resident would have to pay an additional $440 in taxes to make up that difference. Some other highlights for 2014 include the fact that we generated over 106,000 inquiries for our vacation and golf guides, not including downloads and views. We attracted over 200,000 people to our unique visitors to our website, and they visited 685,000 pages. And we also generated over 71,000 downstream visitors to our partners' websites. We hosted 19 travel writers. We generated 70 media placements reaching over 130 million readers, viewers, and listeners, the editorial value of which was over $500,000. We also did produce a new 30-second video commercial, and we did TV in the Charlotte market this past spring. It's the first time we've done TV in a number of years, and we think it's pretty successful. TV is kind of expensive, so it's something that we'll do as we have available funding. We also did some enhancements to our website and created a new blog to help generate traffic to the website and to share additional information about Brunswick County. Our media plan includes a lot of print publications that many of you are very familiar with, like AAA Go, AAA World, Bridal Guide, Coastal Living, those types of publications. But we also do a lot of digital media, and in fact, we're now spending more money each year on digital marketing than we are print marketing. That's just the way marketing is these days. We do video, we do e-blasts, we do Google AdWords, search words. So our marketing is pretty diverse. We also have a couple of board members that live here at Oak Island. Buddy Rudd with Margaret Rudd and Associates is on our board, as is Melanie Robbins with Oak Island Accommodations. She is also on our board. So our Oak Island is very well represented. And in fact, at the end of this month, we're going to have a group of travel writers visit Brunswick County, and they will be spending one night of their visit here at Oak Island. And we usually have groups come once or twice a year, and we will bring them to Oak Island. And I want to extend my thanks to the Parks and Rec Department. They've been very good in working with us. You know, we've taken them fishing, we've taken them kayaking around Oak Island, visiting the lighthouse. So we want to make sure that Oak Island and the entire county is well represented when we bring travel writers to the area. I do want to answer any questions if anyone has anything about anything I've covered or about any of the activities of the Tourism Development Authority.
Sounds like you've already done quite a bit.
It's a beautiful book.
Yeah,
Thank you
it
very
is.
much.
Are you going to leave a copy of the golf guide also?
Yes, I'll leave these two copies for you. And before the Tourism Development Authority was established, we basically marketed the county with $70,000, which you know does not go very far when it comes to marketing. And now with the 1% occupancy tax, our budget is over $1 million. That seems like a lot, but again, it's not as much as some of our competitors. I feel like our board has been very focused, and we've been able to go from 12th in the state in visitor spending up to 9th. And so I think that's a testament to the job that our board has done at the Tourism Development Authority.
And I'd like to reiterate what Mitzi just said. The Tourism Development Authority, none of the property tax that is paid, none of the property owner's tax supports the Tourism and Development Authority. That is paid solely by 1%, the 1 cent from the occupancy tax or accommodations tax, and that's paid by the renters.
That's correct.
Yeah, so those that come here on vacation help pay to market our coast and the county.
That's absolutely correct.
Yep.
Thank you.
Just, could I ask you a question? Have you done any calculations as to the percent growth from 2014, 2015? The growth in revenues, have you compared the two?
Oh, between 14 and 15? So the information that we get comes from the state, and the latest information we got in August covered 2014. So we won't get 2015 numbers until next summer. And then as far as looking at our occupancy tax growth, there is kind of a lag between the time the accommodations have to submit the money to the county, and then we get the information. So it will probably be maybe even November before I can say this is how much money we collected over the summer. It just takes that long for it to filter down to us.
Okay, when you get that information, if you'd share it with us.
Absolutely, we will do that.
Thank you.
You can ride down Ocean Drive and Beach Drive and tell that Oak Island is going to contribute to an increase.
Right. I think so.
Yeah. Any other questions? Thank you. Good presentation. Thank you for your work. There you go.
Thank you so much.
Next, we have a presentation about our vegetative debris pickup by our Public Works Director, Magda Holloway.
Good evening, Madam Mayor and members of council. I was asked to take a look at the ordinance to see if it addressed the difference between the tree trimmings or trees that are cut down or certain size trees that we're not able to pick up. And what I was able to find that at this time it does not. I was going to go through a presentation and show you currently what we have. So I'm here to talk about yard debris pickup. This is a picture that you see in front of you. It's a large area of tree trimmings. Do I need to pull the?
Well, they can't see this. You want me to- okay.
Yeah.
There it comes. There it goes.
Maybe we'll back up and wait for it to come in.
You could open the curtain, see the wizard. There we go.
There we go. So this is an example of one of the areas that we go to where there's a large amount of debris that will take several trips to get this type of debris picked up. One of the problems that we're having is that disposal is becoming increasingly harder for us. Effective January 1st, one of our disposal sites will no longer be taking our debris. So we will, on top of what we pick up now, have to determine where this debris that's been going to the disposal site will go, which is going to make it harder for us. We're also starting to exceed our storage capacity. We're allowed 6,000 cubic yards per quarter. Currently, we're collecting about 10,000 cubic yards per quarter. That's about 2/3 more than what we should be collecting. We're also significantly exceeding our allotted budget. When you increase the amount of volume that we're seeing, you're going to increase overtime that's needed to pick up the debris. We'll have to increase the grinding fees to dispose of some of this, as well as the disposal fees, because we can't grind everything that we have. This is another example of where you have some trees that have been taken down and piled up within the right-of-way with large trunks, several sections laid out there for us to pick up. We could spend half a day picking up debris from one house. The picture before that you just saw would take them half a day to do this. And when we do this in front of one house, we're actually giving unequal services to the citizens by spending that amount of time at one place. This is another example. You can't see in this picture, but all the wood that's in the front, there's just as much behind the limbs at this particular lot as well. This would take at least 3 to 4 hours for our crews to pick up by the time they get the trucks there, have it loaded several times, and take it back to the site that we have to dump. We're also having an issue with illegal dumping. This is just an example of where you find pine straw that's been dumped out by the water's edge. We have this that happens in front of vacant lots. We have it pop up in front of other people's residences, and they don't know where it comes from. Sometimes we'll see trailers coming onto the island with the debris and wonder where is it going. It'll end up on the side of the road, and then we have to pick that up as well. We're receiving several complaints. Complaints about where it sits and how it sits too long, and also when it sits there for too long, it ends up acquiring rats and snakes that start to live within it. So the more debris that we collect, the more that we'll get behind schedule, because we only have so many people that can collect this debris and so many pieces of equipment. This is another example of some trees and shrubs that were cut down and left in front of a vacant lot. Again, several truckloads will take to get this picked up. More debris that we have to pick up allows for more trips, which in turn will make more breakdowns for the equipment. Regardless of if it's a brand new piece or it's a really old piece, the more wear and tear that you put on the equipment, the more maintenance you're going to have. So as your maintenance costs continue to go up, picking up more debris, you're also going to have a cost increase for the service that's provided if we continue to do it as we're doing it right now. And to maintain that, you'd have to increase your solid waste fees so that you could cover those costs. Currently, we get approximately $2.90 from our taxes that are collected per property. So when we do the math on the $2.90 for the 8,000 households that are here for the year, we're collecting approximately $278,400. Our actual operating expenses for this is $314,000. That includes our employees, our equipment, our disposal fees. So there's already a difference of negative $35,600 for this process. And I do expect that to continue to rise as we pick up more. This is an example of one we saw this morning. Covers the entire front of the property. You can barely even see the house that's behind it. And it was left on Oak Island Drive. Another thing to consider is the amount of overtime that these guys have to put in to collect what we have out there so it doesn't sit too long and it doesn't kill grass and become an unsightly issue. We look at weekends and holidays that these gentlemen have to come in and work over their already scheduled work week. So for January through August of last year, as an example, there were 13 loads of leaves picked up and 23 loads of brush, which are your limbs and your tree trunks. For the same time frame this year, the leaves doubled to 26 loads, and the brush has almost tripled to 67 loads. They've worked 19 Saturdays year to date out of 30, I believe there was 35. So they've worked over half of the Saturdays this year from January to August, which equates to approximately $20,000 in overtime and equipment costs. So recommendations that we bring for a possible ordinance amendment is limiting the amount of tree limbs, cutting, shrubbery, and things of that nature to what a residence would consider to be normal yard work. Another option is not that this would not be a service provided for landscaping firms or private tree companies or any individual that collects money to do this type of work and performing any type of major yard work. This is just one example of where you have a yard service that comes in, trims down a lot of brush, and then leaves a large amount in front of the property. I believe we've picked up at least 2 large loads from this just in the last 7 weeks. We'd also like to recommend not to exceed a pickup truck size, which is a 8-foot by 4-foot by 4-foot bed, a standard pickup. And this is an example of a pickup load per residence. Anything larger than that pickup load, we could recommend a fee schedule. We did a study to try to figure out what other communities are doing around us as well as throughout North Carolina. And one of the fee schedules here is represented for what I found with another community. There's an administration fee that you could impose of $50, and that's just simply the time that it would take to go out and investigate, see how big it is, try to figure out when the logistics of picking everything up. So the cost associated with doing that with the extra loads. Then you would add to that, if it's a small pile, like a wheelbarrow size load over the pickup truck, you could charge an additional $40. We recommend you could do a medium pile, which is another pickup truck load, for $80. And then a large pile, such as a small dump truck load, would be $120. If you have anything that's any larger than that, exceeding your large pile, then it could be left up to the discretion of our department based on the current contract fee, because at that point it'd be more beneficial for us to contract someone with a larger truck, to come in and pick up and dispose of it. And so you'd want to charge back what it actually costs plus the administration fee. Additional recommendations. This is being proposed not to be the intent for the city to collect these large portions of tree trimmings. Not entire trees, not anything that's lot clearing debris, which that portion is already covered in the ordinance for lot clearing. Also, not to be for anything that's tree trimming or removal by other entities other than the property owner. Anybody who is outside of the property owner, we would recommend that they dispose of all their materials themselves versus leaving it out in the right-of-way for the town to take the cost. And also would recommend that this material not be allowed to be dumped, thrown, or remain on any lot or space within the city limits in the right-of-way. This is all the information that I have at this time. Does anybody have any questions?
I thought our ordinance stated that we only collected tree trimmings, not trees that have been cut down. So you need to bring back some amendments so that we can say that we don't collect tree trunks.
That's exactly right, Mayor. Our ordinance is not clear now. The former public works directors have sent letters out, but they didn't have the backing of ordinance, so we would like to come back next month with some ordinance recommendations. We kind of wanted to see what the problem was and see if there's any way that we're proposing on going that you did like us to proceed or did not. But yes, we need to strengthen our ordinance, especially in regards to contractor pickups as well.
Question.
There seems to be another issue. You mentioned that we are already exceeding our maximum storage at the airport road site.
Correct.
What are the options?
Well, we're only allowed to store 6,000 cubic yards, so we have to immediately dispose of whatever is above that. We can tub grind it. The facility that I mentioned that's no longer going to be taking the debris, we have 2 facilities that we send to right now, so we'll have to figure out what we're going to do with that other option of that company that was taking it. And the other option is take it to the landfill and pay for natural debris to sit in the landfill, and you pay the cost to drop it off at the landfill.
What does that cost to drop it off at the landfill? If you take one of our truckloads, the big grapple truck.
A dump truckload of just leaves, not brush, is about $92.
And if you,
that's just a dump, that's supposed to be, that's not our fuel, not our maintenance on our truck, not our manpower.
that's just a fee.
Yes, ma'am.
And Madam Mayor, we'll probably have to do a combination of these. We'll probably have to apply to increase our permit as well for growth and haul some to the landfill. So I think we'll have to use a couple of options to deal with it.
I mean, we definitely could amend our fee schedule for extra. I mean, this was intended to help people when they trim their trees and when they rake their leaves instead of burning them in their backyard. It
And
was
some of the-
never intended to pick up entire trees.
Some of the communities that I looked into, they will only allow a pickup truckload to be picked up per week or per month, however their schedule is. So if you've got 3 truckloads sitting out in front of your property, they could potentially leave it out there that long, but that's not what I'm hearing that the community wants because it's unsightly and you have the animals that are left out there. We have looked at other options to see how we can dispose of this, just haven't been successful as of yet to try to figure out, are there organizations that would come in and pick up the wood if they knew that there was wood left out in front of a property to give maybe to elderly who could burn some of it if it's not already decayed or destroyed. But other than that, the landfill is basically where it has to go when we're out of the capacity.
Any trimming that's done commercially or tree removal that's done commercially where the property owner pays the company to do it should be the responsibility of the company or the homeowner to remove. We shouldn't be removing that.
Right.
And our ordinance doesn't state that at
No,
this
it
time.
doesn't.
Right. It only looks at lot clearing.
But that's total agreement. Most towns have it if it's a contract job.
We need to have with that, because they're paying them to take this tree down and they need to haul it off.
I would love to see it limited to we should be picking up tree limbs, vegetative debris, not entire trees. Can we put in some language limiting not just pickup truckload, but the size of the tree limbs, no bigger than 6 inches or something like that?
There's typical ordinance that no larger than 3 to 4 inches in diameter, no longer 6 feet long, that type of thing, so we can incorporate that and come back.
Okay. And I must admit, this past spring, the first of the summer, I spent 4 days trimming our oak trees and our neighbors' oak trees and the vacant lot behind me, some trees. And so I put out that long line you had. I probably did that over 3 or 4 days. I mean, they had to come back. They picked it up one time, and they came back again to pick up some more.
There's a picture of your house on there.
Pardon?
That was a
It was
picture
at
of
my
your
house?
Yeah.
But no,
Madam-
this was not just our house, it was 3. I went and trimmed it, so would we be able to give consideration to that, or should I just have taken our trimmings and put them in our, front of our yard?
You're gonna have to do.
We've got great grass, she has none, so we put it all in her yard.
I mean, I think that's something that people will have to get accustomed to, is that, I know in our neighborhood, a lot of people decide to put it all in one pile. But I guess to the extent that pile exceeds what we state in our ordinance, they'll have to create another pile in front of another house.
Or pay for it.
Madam Counselor,
pay for it.
or pay for it, or what there'll be some places we have to put no dumping signs as well. Unfortunately, I've had to deal with this before, and we've had neighborhoods who don't want it in front of their house, and they'll have a communal dump site. We usually post it, and then you can't dump anymore, and they have to put it on their property. So there'll be several things come up with this. One thing, too, we'll probably make sure we allow wording for during or after a hurricane pickup, we'll have some different changes in case, so the contractors will still be responsible, but as far as like how much debris you can put out, we, just so people don't get too excited about a hurricane event, we will have allowances and treat things differently. But we're not gonna have any more of those for 30, 40 years, so we won't have to worry about it.
What are you doing as far as enforcement? If you, down the street from my house, they built 2 houses, they are beautiful, but they cut down a pine tree. And it's cut in firewood lengths, but its trunk's this big around, or bigger, and they've just got it out at the side of the road. What are you doing about enforcing when you see these big tree trunk-sized logs?
That's why we're here, Madam Mayor, because we really don't have a mechanism to deal with it.
Right now, we're having to pick it up.
Goodness.
That's bad.
That grapple thing will pick up those huge tree
Well, you
trunks?
mentioned an important fact there. Wear and tear on vehicles, those
Uh-huh.
grapple trucks will not last as long if they're picking up those kind of limbs.
I mean,
So
those
equipment
they cut
wears
down
out
are heavy.
quicker.
And when they're that large, you can't fill the truck up as much as you could if you just
Right.
had limbs.
Yeah.
You have to be careful with that as well.
Okay, council consensus, I don't think we need to do a motion, just ask that you bring back at the next meeting some amendments to our ordinances, and thanks for that presentation. I don't think anybody realized what was happening there as much as it's been happening.
Let's take a break.
Pardon?
Take a break.
Yep. Okay, next, Counselor Kaiser has invited, Ms. Carrie Moffitt.
Take a break.
Oh, okay. Oh, I'm sorry, yeah, it's 7:20. We're gonna take a break, Danny, before we have Ms. Moffitt's presentation, okay?
Are you asking me or telling me?
I'm just telling you so you can tell her, please. We're not gonna do it. Okay, we will call the meeting back to order. Next, we have a presentation by Carrie Moffitt. It concerns the oil drilling on the coast. Ms. Moffitt, if you'd like to come up and do your presentation at the podium.
Go over that podium there,
For 6 minutes.
that one over
You have
there.
10 minutes.
And Betty said to keep it to about 10 minutes or less.
Yeah, about 10 minutes, and then we will consider this after the consent agenda. It won't be immediately after your presentation.
Got it. Okay, great. I appreciate the opportunity to speak before you tonight, just to give you an update of where things stand with seismic oil and gas exploration.
Must not be on, mic must not be.
Okay. Okay, is that
Better?
better? Okay, just give me the thumb if you don't hear it, okay? Good, thanks. I appreciate the opportunity to come and talk with you today about seismic and oil and gas exploration. I think in our community, the Stateport pilot has done a good job of covering this issue. There are a few things that, as I was talking with Mr. Kaiser, that we thought really are important in this conversation that would be helpful to you and to the public to hear as you're considering your resolution this evening. I wanted to just give a really, really quick sense of where we are. This has all come about because of efforts by the federal government. You will see this initial BOEM occasionally. That's the Bureau of Ocean Energy Management. They are tasked with managing, obviously, the ocean's energy. They have been tasked with looking for oil and gas exploration and managing that process to find it and to lease it over the next few years. They've recently put out what's called a draft program for 2017 to 2022. That is out for public comment. They have not decided the final pieces of that as of yet. Yes, ma'am.
Could you introduce yourself and give your,
Sure.
Short?
I'm sorry. I assumed that you had that. My name is Carrie Moffitt. During the day, I am Executive Director of Bald Head Association. During the evening, in my off hours, I'm a Brunswick County resident. We've been here about 6 years. We spend a lot of time on Oak Island. We consider these our beaches. Spend a lot of time at Oak Island businesses, so this is part of my community. So I've spent a great deal of time, probably over the last 9 months, a great deal of time learning about this issue and keeping my board informed, keeping other municipalities involved with some of my colleagues as well. So, thank you. The federal government, what they're proposing to do is to do a lease sale in this 2017 to 22 program. So what they've proposed is that they will open up the Atlantic for the first time. They are proposing one lease sale, and I want you to keep that in mind for a little bit later. In the Atlantic, you'll see on that chart there are several others in the Gulf of Mexico and several others in Alaska. While those are obviously important, they don't affect our beaches here. It's also important to note that there is a 50-mile buffer that the feds have proposed that would keep all of that infrastructure 50 miles from shore. What they're suggesting that there hasn't been any research in the last 20 years to definitively find out exactly how much is out there, but what they're proposing is, you see on the right there, 4.7 billion barrels of oil on the Atlantic coast between Virginia and Georgia, and a little bit of Florida. So a lot of the conversation that is happening right now is about economic benefits, and a lot of what you'll read is we need to do offshore drilling, we need to do seismic activity to find out how much is there because of economic benefits. We need energy independence, we need to create jobs, we'll have increased revenue. What I wanted to do is to go through a few of those with you just to point out a few things that you may not already know. As far as energy independence, we are largely independent already. With natural gas, you can see, and this is from the federal government, the production line there, we are producing almost as much as we're consuming. So a lot of folks don't know that. You also see the amount that we are importing. The largest amount comes from Canada. When it comes to petroleum, again, the question is energy independence. There's always a question of OPEC. If you can see there, and the top line there is the combined OPEC countries, you'll see that we are now importing more from Canada than from all of the OPEC countries combined. So when we talk about what is imported, you'll see that's just a breakdown of the numbers. You'll see how much we're importing from Canada, Saudi Arabia, those other countries as well. When we talk about jobs, one of the primary pieces that I have seen in other communities and other newspapers, I know that the governor, and in fact I've heard the Secretary of the Department of Energy and Natural Resources quoting some numbers that talk about there'll be 55,000 jobs that come to North Carolina if we do this offshore oil and exploration. Some of those jobs they predict will come by the year 2035. The blue ones on top will be indirect, so they'll be, folks who are cleaning homes, folks who, insurance agents, that sort of not directly related to oil and gas exploration. I think it's really important, this is a really, really important point that I want you to hear, is that the report that they did was put out by a company called Quest Offshore Resources. And the report was paid for by the American Petroleum Institute. To get those 55,000 jobs, they based from 2017 to 2035 on selling 350 lease sales. Now you remember at the beginning I said the feds have proposed 1. So those 55,000, that 55,000 number is really an inflated number that is based on 350 sales that are not scheduled to happen. The next benefit they talk about is revenue sharing, and there has been a substantial amount of money that's come into the Gulf over the last several years. There is an offshore continental shelf governors coalition that is lobbying for a revenue sharing agreement, but that is not in place. It is something that will require the United States Congress to put in place. There's nothing in place right now. There is legislation that has been considered by a Senate committee. It's called the Offshore Production Energizing National Security Act. Interesting title. It is referred to as the Opens Act. You will be reading about this in the next couple of weeks. Attached to that is the export ban, repealing the export ban. So there's a lot of conversation about that in Washington right now, particularly with the price of oil so low. So this Opens Act, there's a section that's entitled Title III that directly affects us. The bill is sponsored by Senator Murkowski. It not only eliminates the crude oil ban, it does provide the 37.5% revenue sharing with no cap on that amount. It gives the governor authority to distribute money for various causes that you can see there. I think the concern that many of us has is that there is no mandate for mitigation. So while money might come into the state, if this is put into effect, there is no requirement for the government to send any money whatsoever to the coast for any mitigation of an oil spill that might happen here. It requires 1 lease sale, again, just 1, not 350. And it is also very disturbing that buried within this legislation, it allows the permanent surface production facilities to be as close as 12 miles. And that's really, really close. The feds have originally asked for the 50-mile buffer. It's patterned after the Gulf of Mexico agreement, and they have a really complex formula that delivers that money to those 4 states in the Gulf. What I wanted you to get from this slide is that even if there is federal legislation in place, that's no guarantee that any money, the amounts of money that are thrown out will come to this community. A letter, those representatives of those 4 states sent a letter to the president complaining that even though this legislation is in place, in the last 3 years, the feds have received $22.3 billion, and they've gotten 4. President Obama also proposed a reduction in that revenue sharing plan for this year. So there are some environmental risks. I think many of us know what they are. I know others probably in the public comments will be talking about some of those issues. I wanted to put this graphic up just so you can see what seismic surveying is. You probably read about this in the newspaper. So this will be the boat that will be traveling along trying to determine what sorts of amounts are in the seabed. Those seismic surveying, these are the maps that those companies propose to do that seismic surveying. All of that can happen as close as 3 miles out. So those could be happening as close as 3 miles from our shore. Keep in mind, the Deepwater Horizon blowout was 45 miles from shore. So that 12-mile buffer that's in that Opens Act becomes extremely important. Obviously, there's impact on wildlife. The brown pelicans, they found petroleum in places as far away as Minnesota from the Deep Horizon spill. There's a huge impact on wildlife. This is Cat Island in Louisiana that you can see just in the last couple of years has disappeared. And it is much like Battery Island out here. It is a rookery for brown pelicans, I think the 4th largest in the country. So we certainly don't want that to happen to our areas. Clearly, we live in an area where hurricanes can be prevalent. That's something that we certainly need to be aware of. These next 2 slides really are just giving you a sampling. I think the Deep Horizon spill is always really scary, and all of us really are concerned about that. But there are smaller spills that happen every day across the country. This is just a sample of some of them that have happened just since the end of March. And you can see those are much smaller ones. I appreciated the comments of the lady who was here earlier. This kind of ties right into her comments as well. I think one of the things that we've been asking ourselves is we have a thriving, robust tourism industry here in this area, and why would we be jeopardizing that for the possibility of perhaps getting some revenue? So, thank you. You know, we are the 6th most visited state in the nation. $21.3 billion in domestic spending in the state of North Carolina, just here in Brunswick County, the numbers that she talked about as well, and 6,000 jobs just in our county alone. I think that's pretty substantial. So just real quickly, I want to tell you what's happening now. There are aerial surveying, the seismic testing. There are 4 permits that are being reviewed. One permit has been granted thus far for aerial surveying. That will be happening in the 4th quarter of this year. The others are being held up, I guess you could say, in the bureaucratic wheel. They don't expect those will be completed until the end of next year. Senator Murkowski's bill, the Opens Act that I mentioned, it has passed a Senate committee. It is expected to go to the floor anytime in September. They began debating the Iran nuclear deal today. My understanding is when that's finished, they may move on to the export ban. We're also hearing that the House is considering some sort of export ban as well. I don't know yet what will be attached to that, but it seems like it could be a companion bill to the Opens Act. The Department of Interior, which is where BOEM is housed, their appropriations will kick up soon. They're supposed to be in place by the end of September, although we hear that's probably not going to happen. But the Department of Interior's budget, when they began discussing it earlier this year, there were some amendments that were coming up that would mandate that the Atlantic be included in this, and I think that's something that completely circumvents the public comment and the public engagement section of their mandate. The governor is asking that the buffer be reduced to 30 miles and to add additional lease sales. And at the same time, there is growing grassroots opposition. I don't want you to be overwhelmed by this chart. This is the federal government's process. We are where the star is. There is this proposed program that's out there. For it to really be stopped, the stopping point would be that final 5-year program announced. If we can manage to get the Atlantic out of this discussion, that would be it. Otherwise, it'll be several years before any of the wells are drilled. So this is the opposition that I mentioned. There are, almost every day, there are a number of councils that are examining this and looking at the impact that it will have on their communities. I understand Holden Beach is also looking at this tonight as well. And our friends and neighbors on both sides of the state line, as well as many county board of commissioners. So I appreciate the opportunity that you've given me to bring you up to date on this. I know that you all care about this community very, very much, and appreciate that you are bringing that resolution up for discussion tonight.
Thank you.
Could we get a copy of this?
Can you email, please?
Yes, ma'am.
A copy of this PowerPoint to, just go ahead and email it to the town clerk, and she could forward to the council and the manager?
I sure will.
Sure.
Did you save it on that laptop by any chance? No,
sorry?
that's fine.
It's on the desktop.
It
but
is
I'll
on
be
the
glad
laptop
to-
there. I can get it from there. Thank you.
Thank you.
Good. Council will be considering the referendum later, resolution later. Next is adjustment and approval of the agenda, please. Counselor Painter, I believe you would like to pull consent agenda item number 3
Yes.
and put it under items removed from the consent agenda. We need to add, Madam Clerk, is it only two more committee appointment applications, Ted Manos and Bob Yingling?
Yes, for the Beach Inlet Committee.
We
Thank you.
need to add those to the Beach and Inlet Committee. And does any of the council members have any other amendments or adjustments to the agenda? Pardon?
Could we add to closed session discussing specific personnel? I don't know the numbers.
Add to the closed session, specific personnel.
It's all the same numbers except for a 6 at the end.
Okay. It's A6 instead of A3?
Yes.
Okay. And that NCGS A6. Okay. So when we make the motion, it just NCGS and do A3 and A6? Okay. Any other adjustments, please? If not, Chair will entertain a motion to approve the agenda as amended.
Mayor, I move to approve the agenda as amended.
Have a motion by Councilor
Second.
Painter, have a second by Councilor Kaiser. All those in favor, please? And it is unanimous. Next is public comments. When you come to the podium, please state your name and your address. Limit your comments to 5 minutes, please. First to sign up is Beverly Deal.
Good evening. My name's Beverly Deal. I live at 231 Northeast 68th Street. I appreciate the mayor and the council hearing me tonight. I'm back kind of with the same burr in my saddle that I had when I was here last month, but on a good side. We have had some improvement on our street, and we appreciate anybody that I have talked to, and I've had the many members of the council and also of the town hall to call me and to give me status and to make things happen, and I really appreciate that. 114 Northeast 68th Street is better looking, but the mobile home itself is so dilapidated and falling apart. I'm anxious to see what will happen to the actual home. There's still a lot of garbage around there. There's an empty trailer sitting there, but the big stuff, the mattresses and the appliances and what have you, have improved. I did have to make a phone call last week because they had moved some of the appliances to the edge of the street. And after I made that phone call, then all of a sudden the stuff started moving out of the way, and I really appreciate whoever's behind making that happen. 210 Northeast 68th Street has been posted as condemned. However, my husband and I travel up and down the street several times a day usually. We do see comings and goings of people still in that property. The windows are open at sometimes they're closed. We see a car come and go. So there is movement in that property, even though it's a condemned property. I don't know how you further enforce that, but that still remains a concern to us. And there's still a lot of garbage and debris around that property. I know a little bit about the homeowner there and the status of the situation. I don't know who cleans that up. Maybe nobody. Maybe we just have to look at that. But that does still is a concern to the neighbors on the street.
That address was what?
210 Northeast 68th Street. 236 Northeast 68th Street is directly across the street from where I live at 231. And it's funny, we just listened to the debris that's being piled on the side of the street. Well, someone came in, a contractor came in about a week and a half ago, cut trees on the lot, bush hogged the lot, and tore down a lot of just overgrowth and what have you. And it's all piled on the front of the property. I can see the house nice and clear. And from what I understand from some of the workers, was that there's some question as to whether the house is going to be refurbished or torn down. That's unofficial. I have no idea what this man's, he's not the owner of the property. The property was sold in an estate sale in Greensboro, and from what my understanding, its plan is to be flipped, to be cleaned up, either the property fixed or torn down or rebuilt or something, and then flip the property. So that's sort of the status on our street. I do want to mention that it's not just 68th Street, and I know that. I know you have huge fish to fry, and I appreciate everything that I hear at council. I know the importance of everything, and how things look might not be important in the scheme of things, but I think it's real important because we do have lots of visitors that come from away that may at some time, like my husband and I, decide to make this our home. And if it looks like junk, they don't going to want to live here. I happened to turn down Northeast Sherrill Street just last week. I had missed my turn, and I turned down Northeast Sherrill Street. It's an abomination. It's worse looking than what I started out complaining about on my street. So I decided that maybe I didn't really have it as bad as I thought I did, because that was horrible. There's properties on there that looks like hoarders and trash people are just piling it up in their yards. There's one fence property all the way almost to the end of Sherrill Street on the left, going towards the Intercoastal, and I'm not familiar with the address. I really couldn't see a house number on it. I mean, there's so much garbage piled behind a fence in that yard. It's horrible. But I do want to thank you again for paying attention to me. I'm a little fish in a big sea. But I do know that it does show me that you all do care what we say, but I'm not going away. I appreciate what you've done, but until we get it cleaned up really good, I'm not going away. So thank you for hearing me tonight.
Steve and Tim, did you get all those addresses?
Well, I think Steve has on the 68th Street. I think all of them are, go ahead, yeah. I think sometimes on some of those 68, some of them take a little bit longer, but Steve will address that.
Yeah, 68th Street, the tenant has asked permission to be able to go in there and get some of his things out, so that may be why she's seeing people coming and going. There is a gentleman that has power of attorney of the home, and he has been contacted, and he is having to go through the eviction process, even though the house has been, it hasn't been condemned, it's been notified as unsafe for human occupancy, which means that people cannot live in there, and it's a misdemeanor if they do, and it's a police action from that point. But the eviction notice is being worked on, but the tenant does want to get his stuff and move out, and that's where we are with that one.
Can you, in the next week or so, ride down Sherrill?
I've got it to ride down tomorrow.
Okay, all right. See there? Come up and speak. Next is Karen Mosteller, please.
Hi there, I'm Karen Mosteller. I'm a resident of Southport, and I own a property, the property 208 Southeast 78th Street in Oak Island. Mayor Wallace and council members, thank you for the opportunity to speak. Like her sister communities, the city of Oak Island has a long history and profound connection to the Atlantic Ocean, and is one of the communities that will be most affected by the results of the proposed seismic surveying and its related activities. 8 universities, including Duke, argue in a peer-reviewed paper published 2 weeks ago that high decibel seismic testing for oil and gas in ocean waters should be controlled and monitored like pollution. In March of this year, 75 leading marine scientists signed a letter sent to President Obama that said, the magnitude of the proposed seismic activity is likely to have significant, long-lasting, widespread impacts on the reproduction and survival of fish and marine mammal populations in the region. Currently, the Bureau of Ocean Energy Management is considering the approval of 4 separate seismic surveying permit applications by different companies. If approved, these companies will be conducting seismic testing as close as 3 miles to our shore. What does seismic surveying look like? The use of air cannons. It's done with boats that drag as many as 42 air cannons with microphones strung out as far as 12 miles behind it, firing the air cannons approximately every 10 seconds, 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, up to as much as a year. Each burst from each cannon is approximately 250 decibels. The noise generated by each cannon roughly approximates the epicenter of a grenade blast and would easily rupture a human eardrum. The reason the explosive sound is so very loud is they are on the surface of the ocean shooting through the water to create a map of the area over 2 miles below the ocean floor. Sounds travel farther, faster, and amplified in water. And according to Duke Marine Lab professor Doug Nowacek, tests have shown that sounds this loud have the potential to travel hundreds and even thousands of miles through ocean water. At least 2 of the permit applications include the use of 2 survey boats simultaneously conducting seismic air cannon mapping in the proposed area. It is important to note that the permit applications for all 4 different companies are requesting to test the same overlapping areas off our coast at the same time. Again, it bears repeating that if these permits are granted, the offshore overlapping designated testing areas start 3 miles off our shore. Oak Island, the Oak Island community has especially known for their commitment to sea turtle conservation. None of the current permit applications acknowledge any potential effects that the use of air cannons may have on the 6 different species of sea turtles off the North Carolina coast, 3 of which are on the endangered list. In fact, none of the applications even mention North Carolina's sea turtle population, and the applications offer no mitigation plan to protect sea turtles from air cannon exposure. Loggerhead turtles are endangered globally and threatened in the United States, and the largest single breeding habitat area for loggerheads is off the coast of North Carolina. No studies exist that understand the impacts that seismic surveying on this scale will have on sea turtles and on the marine life and habitat that makes it possible for the turtles to survive. Hunted almost to extinction, there are only 473 North Atlantic right whales left on the planet. Our Brunswick County coast is part of their calving area. A marine ecologist that works for NOAA noted that because marine mammals rely on their ability to hear far more than their ability to see, current chronic noise generated from commercial ships can make it nearly impossible for the right whale to be heard by other whales, and is likely reducing their opportunities to gather and share vital information that helps them find food and mate and navigate and avoid predators and take care of their young. Clearly, scientists already recognize that the existing ocean noise levels can be harmful, and it is hard to conceive what impacts several sources of seismic air guns fired approximately every 10 seconds, 24 hours a day, 7 days a week on end will have on federally listed 12 endangered and 4 threatened marine species off our coast. Fisheries experts and both Mid-Atlantic and South Atlantic fishery councils have expressed concern and opposition to the use of seismic air cannons and the potential effects on commercial and recreational fishing in our area. In conclusion, in conclusion?
That's 5 minutes.
Good. In conclusion?
In conclusion, we must call into question the use of seismic air cannons, which is like in the duration, the frequency, and charge that has never been done before in the Atlantic. I'm going to skip through. In April last year, Oak Island passed a resolution of concern. Now, with more information, you have the opportunity to stand up with other communities in North Carolina and that have passed resolutions in full opposition of seismic survey and offshore oil and gas drilling. Stand alongside Southport, Sunset Beach, Bald Head.
We had that in the presentation. Okay. Thank you.
Thank you. No, thank you.
I'm sorry, I'll limit other people.
No, it's all good. Thank you.
Okay. Next is Pete Key, and you got to follow that.
Mine's a little bit more heartfelt, I think. I did take a little bit of a spanking I'm Pete Key, live on 238 Northeast 38th Street. Mayor walks by my house about every day walking the dog. I'm gonna go ahead and hit the start button here for my timer. I want to thank commissioners, the counselors and the mayor. Got the commissioners on my mind because that's where my heart is right now. Got my heart handed to me at that meeting a couple weeks ago. And the gentleman stood up at the podium and said, you know, this is all about emotions. The guy from the oil department said, it's all about emotions. You know, there's no facts here. Boy, that burned me up. So I went and started digging, and I found out all kinds of facts and information. And I'm not going to share as much as Karen did. She burned your ears up with all kinds of facts. But one of the things that hit me while I was sitting here tonight, as a matter of fact, was Mitzi York was talking about the tourism dollars that we get in this state. We're the ninth county in the state? I think we're number 3 on the coast, behind New Hanover County, very close. I think we're only about $700,000 behind them in revenues. And, of course, Dare County, which blows everybody out of the water with what they've got up there. But that's important to us. Our tourism dollars are driven by the beauty of our coast. That's our economy. That's our culture. That's what we live here for. That's what I came here for. The dream that Danny Kaiser talked about, that people come and live here to exercise their dream, to visit us, to be a part of who we are. That's what we're here for. It's the beauty that we live in. And the question is, what is oil going to do to that for us? How are they going to help us enhance the beauty of our communities? As they put pipelines from their oil rigs 12 miles that way, and they run those pipelines under the ocean, where are they going to come out of the water? West Beach? East Beach? Maybe Kaz will volunteer to put them over there by the heat ducts where the water comes out from the nuclear plant. Could be a good place. Where are they going to come out? What are they going to look like? Those are the jobs, those are the things when they build those pipelines, when they build the refineries, when they build Tank Town, where they're going to store this, those are going to be where the jobs come from that they're talking about. And then they might turn around and say, well, you know, we're not going to put all this infrastructure in your area. You know, we're just going to move this oil somewhere else. Where are they going to move it to? They're going to move it by ship from that platform. They're going to move it by ship to New Jersey and Texas. Where's our jobs going to be at that point? Where's our money going to be at that point? We're going to get nothing. They're going to hand us nothing. And if they do install infrastructure, if you look at the facts, the Department of Interior that Karen talked about, or Moffitt talked about over here, the Department of Interior's own estimates, in an article in Newsweek, they asked him, how much oil is out there? And the guy said, we don't know. With 95% certainty, I can tell you there's 3.4 or some odd billion gallons out there. And they asked him, well, what can you say with 95% certainty is out there? 100 days worth of oil. 100 days. And this is what we're saying our national security depends on. The gentleman that stood up at the Brunswick County Commissioners meeting stood up and said, our national security depends on us drilling out here in the Atlantic. Our national security depends on 100 days worth of gasoline when we're getting all of our gas from where? From Canada. We're getting it from Canada. We don't need to drill out here. There's no purpose in us drilling out here. It serves nothing. It does nothing for us except hurts our culture and our economy. It hurts what we stand for. It hurts what I came here with my kids for, all 4 of my daughters. I came here to make a life. And that's what I'm here to say is I appreciate what you guys are doing. You guys are bringing this resolution back up, and you're taking it from a concerned resolution to a no, we don't want drilling here. It does nothing for us. We don't want seismic here because it's going to hurt our Brunswick fish catch. They will say there's nothing wrong. We can't prove, there's never been any proven facts showing that animals are hurt by seismic cannons. That's a lie. The country of Norway did a study in 2007, which was an extension of a study done in 1996, that showed when seismic cannons come through, and I'll provide you guys with this information. All you got to do is, Mayor knows how to get in touch with me. I'm on Facebook. Come say, hey, I want that information. I'll get it to you. They did a study in 2007 that showed that the catch, and I'm going to read from their study, catch reduction was most pronounced within the seismic area where trawl catches of both species, cod and haddock, and line catches of haddock declined by 70%, and line catches of cod declined by 45%. Nor was there any sign of increases in catch rates during the 5-day period after the shooting was over. The quantity of cod and haddock within the test areas was measured using acoustic mapping. So they sent their little radar into the water, just like you do your fish finder, and they found that there was a ratio of decline at the same ratio as the catch reductions. So they, not only did they see those reductions, wrapping up, not only did they see those reductions in the catch, they saw them in the surveys that they were doing with their guns. Guys, I really appreciate what you're doing. Bring it up. Let's vote no. Let's do the right thing for our community. Let's do the right thing for our families. Thank you.
Thank you, Pete. That's all that's signed up to speak during general comments. Is there anyone else that wishes to speak, please? Please. State your name and address when you come to the podium, please.
I'm Judy Reynolds.
I'm sorry, speak in the microphone, would you?
I'm Judy Reynolds, 216 Northeast 68th Street. And I have just driven in from Pitt County, so I haven't even been up the street yet to see what improvements have been made, but I've heard about it. And I'm grateful and I'm thankful for them also. And Madam Mayor and council members, what I want to speak to you about is in reference to Tim's email on 8/25. In case anyone thinks I'm not satisfied with development services, please know I am very satisfied with development services, what they've been able to do with whatever tool they found to post this unsafe for human occupancy on this house at 210 Northeast 68th Street until the utilities are restored. Because my understanding, everybody's hands was tied and they couldn't do anything because there was no minimum housing ordinance. So I was expecting nothing to happen. So I was happy that something happened, and I didn't want anybody to think I was not satisfied. I am. And I did go to a neighboring town because I did want to read how their minimum housing ordinance read, and they didn't have one. So I look forward to reading Oak Island's draft soon. Maybe you've already got it, I don't know. And another thing that is really, really important is people returning phone calls. And I understand there may not be enough help, whatever. I mean, I wouldn't mind volunteering maybe 3 or 4 hours every time I come to return some of your phone calls. I wouldn't mind that at all. I can talk on the phone. And anyhow, I just wanted to make sure you knew I was satisfied.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Is there anyone else that wishes to speak, please? Please.
Roseanne Fortner, 113 Paula Circle. Would like to speak about the issue of the resolution opposing offshore drilling. I was so pleased when I saw it as part of the consent agenda because it said to me, look, they're getting ready to pass it as part of one fell swoop of all of these things in the consent agenda, and it will be done. But now I see that somebody is concerned enough to pull it out of that for additional discussion. You've heard a lot of things about the facts about that resolution and how other people stand on it, what they have pulled together as the ammunition, if you will, to say that this is not a good idea to drill offshore, to do seismic testing in order to find where to drill offshore, to believe that it's going to bring money into our economy, to believe that a spill won't happen here. You've heard the facts. I want to offer now the perspective of somebody who will be 70 years old by the end of this year. I've spent 50 of those and more in environmental science education. And what I'm asking you to do is to look instead look at the big picture of what you're trying to decide here. We've spent hours tonight and in other council meetings talking about piles of fill, piles of vegetation, how things look, what we paid this month, and so forth. Instead of those short-term, small-scale things, please look beyond the town's navel to the big wide world. We are faced with a climate change that scientists tell us is created in large part by fossil fuels and human activities. Those fossil fuels, especially petroleum, are fraught with problems from the very beginning, from exploration of them to extraction of them to use of them and to their final disposal as carbon dioxide in the atmosphere. On all of my years as an environmental educator, I've been using the things that they told us in the 1970s during the early environmental movements. There were three major principles that they said. The first one is, there is no away. What we extract will be with us in the air, on the land, in the water. There is no free lunch. Jobs come, if they do come, at high price. And the third one is, nature bats last. If we continue to support fossil fuels, we will be able to see what their environmental impact does to us in the air, on the land, on our shores. Please stand with other communities to oppose seismic testing and offshore drilling. Go for a no-risk response. Choose no, please. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Please.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Hillary Garver. I live at 102 Southwest 19th Street. Just wanted to share a little bit of news that we got just a few minutes ago. Holden Beach had an ununanimous vote to oppose seismic testing and offshore drilling, 6-0. They also added that they wanted the resolution to be sent to the county commissioners showing their strong opposition to these activities. That's all I have. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there anybody else that wishes to speak, please?
Hello, everybody. My name is Helen DeFalco, and I live at 113 Northeast 58th Street, 51st Street, excuse me. I'm kind of new with this oil drilling thing, you know, well, in North Carolina anyway. You can hear my accent from up top, okay? And when I think of oil drilling, those of you who are from New Jersey, you'll remember this. In New Jersey, we have these huge oil tanks. Back in the 80s, they exploded. You couldn't hear it for 25 miles away. It shattered my house's windows. I was a little kid at that time. I thought the end of the world occurred. In the 90s, we also had a natural gas explosion. It tore up an entire apartment building complex. I drove by there a couple days later, and the cars were beyond recognizable. And being born and raised in Newark, New Jersey, and being so close to the ports and the Exxon refinery, and watching those ships come in and out every day with oil, you couldn't even go in that water. It was thick with residue, with smudge, with dead animals, and it's still to this day, it smells. If anybody knows the Elizabeth Exxon refinery, New Jersey, it smells for miles. If you fly into Newark Airport, you can smell it, can you not? So, I think, you know, it's a wise man who learns from his mistakes, but I think it's a wiser man who learns from others. So, we can read all these reports and we can hear all this stuff, but really, all you have to do is look up, look out west. All these states have gone before us and really have not fared very well. And yet they have, even if they have these problems, they have resources.
God forbid, if we allow this and we're faced into that position, we don't have the resources. We don't have the money, we don't have the nourishment, we don't have the know-how, we just don't have it. We're a little town, you know, and so, I don't know, I don't think it's worth the risk. I don't think it's, you know what, seismic activity, noises, the Navy has done things like that for decades. This is nothing new, you know? So, I just want to say, council people, mayor, that this is your time to do the right thing, you know? Because you'll be eventually, serve your time, people replace you, but, you know, this is the time to be on the right side of history, not the wrong side. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there anyone else that wishes to speak, please? Okay, we will go on. Pardon? I'm glad. Next is the regular meeting. Chair will entertain a motion to approve the consent agenda as amended, please.
Madam Mayor, I move to approve the consent agenda as amended.
Motion by Councilor Painter, second by Councilor Medlin. All those in favor, please, and it is unanimous. Councilor Painter, items removed from the consent agenda, please. The consideration of a resolution opposing offshore drilling. Would you like to discuss this, please?
I don't see any need to discuss it.
Okay.
I move to approve the resolution opposing offshore drilling.
A motion by Councilor Painter.
Second.
Do we have a second by Councilor Kaiser? Is there any further discussion from the council members?
Are we gonna add the seismic testing in there?
It's in there.
It's in there already, yeah. All those in favor of the resolution, please? And it is unanimous. Thanks, guys. I love it when the people in town come up and speak about what you're concerned about. I can tell you that I was really concerned that this wasn't going to pass tonight, and you changed it. Your heartfelt comments. So, and come to the council meetings when they're discussing dull stuff, so you'll know later what happened. Okay. All right, next is committee appointments. We have 3 applications for the Beach Preservation Trust Fund Advisory Board. There are 4 terms open. First application is Diane Boutsine, I think is how they pronounce their last name. All those in favor of appointing Diane? Yes, unanimous. Application for Roseanne Fortner. I don't know how long she served on this board, but it's been a lot of years. 2006. All those in favor, please, reappointing. Thank you. Billy Latendra, how long has she served on that, really? Almost as long as you have. All those in favor of appointing Billy, and it is unanimous. The Planning Board, we have 2 applications for 1 unexpired term ending August 2017. William Bartlett and Robert Carpenter. All those in favor of appointing William Bartlett, please. All those in favor of appointing Robert Carpenter? 5 for Robert Carpenter. Now we have the Beach and Inlet Committee, the new committee. Madam Clerk, I'm gonna need some help. How many positions are open on that committee? We have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8
I
applications.
believe you said it at 4 with 1 staff liaison person.
4 with a staff person? Or the council member?
Council member, yeah.
Okay, out of these 8, you can vote for 4, and we will appoint the ones that get the most votes. All right, Steve Foster has 5. Larry Hammett, please. Philip Lake. Did you raise your hand?
Yeah.
Philip Lake, okay. Philip Lake's 5. James Stansel III. It has 3? Oh, 5, okay. Gene Stokes has 4. That's 4. So do we need to consider the rest of the applications?
Generally do, just in case.
Pardon?
You generally do, just in case anybody wanted their vote to be.
Okay. Daryl Vickers, Ted Manos, and Bob Yingling, please. Okay. So Steve Foster, Philip Lake, James Stansel III, and Gene Stokes have been appointed to the committee.
And let me just add, please, Mayor, that we had some really, really great applicants for this committee, and I actually really wished that our former council member, Dara Royal, would have applied with the wealth of knowledge and experience she has in this area. But she assured me that she would come to meetings and impart her knowledge. And I would urge these others who have an interest in this committee and this topic and expertise, or just wishing to participate, please come to the meetings, because we can use as many of these good minds as possible.
I talked to Dara too. She's busy. She's tutoring advanced calculus for the honor high school students. She was a math teacher.
I'm helping her.
Pardon?
I'm helping her.
Oh, Jim is helping her. And she's also an elder now at the church. Okay, next is committee reports. Par 3 Ad Hoc Committee.
Madam Mayor, council members, again, I'd like to thank you for your support of the Golf Course Committee in the adoption of our business plan. Mr. Hallman, the same, who just walked out, I'd like to thank him also for his support. We're already seeing the positive effects of this plan, and you're going to see.
Wait, we can't hear you. Wait till that goes down. Hold on a second. Okay, now.
Yeah, we're already seeing the effects of the business plan in our approach and the approval by everyone. Mr. Hallman, of course, helping out a lot. We're going to show a presentation here very shortly, but I'd like to give a thank you to a couple of people here. Dave Pooley, Wayne Johnson, our employees at the golf course, are doing an outstanding job. We have seen a turnaround in this golf course in a matter of 2 months, which you would not believe and understand. It's completely unbelievable. Also, I'd like to thank Dan Russo. Dan Russo is a volunteer at that golf course who right now is putting in between 30 and 40 hours a week as a volunteer. And he, again, just an outstanding job with these individuals. I don't know how in the world they're getting it done with 3 people, but they are. Again, I want to keep this very short because we have a presentation. Rebecca Squire is going to give us a presentation on the golf course and to see the effects of what's going on out there and the improvements, again, that have been made so quickly. We can't believe it. We're also going to be having quite a few events in the month of October. It's going to be like our grand opening of the golf course again, and celebration of the greens and the work that's done. We have additional work to be done, so everyone out there in the public knows it can't be all done right now this year. But we're going to follow up the following year once revenues start coming in again and we get the people out here in the island to start playing the golf course again. I think you're going to see the asset that this golf course will be in lieu of the liability it was treated to be in the past. So if Rebecca would please come up now, I'd get a presentation on the golf greens.
So the last time I was before you...
Rebecca, introduce yourself.
Oh, sorry. Rebecca Squires, the Director of the Parks and Recreation Department. Thank you. So the last time I came before you to talk about the golf course, it was more of an implementation of the plan and part of the plan from the Golf Course Committee. So Mr. Holloman wanted me to give you an update on what's been done so far and what the golf course looks like. So that's what this presentation is about. And I know we're running kind of long tonight, so I'll be brief. As you see before you, this is the golf greens just May of this year. They were in pretty bad shape, and that's primarily the reason we lost a lot of players, a lot of revenue. So this is May. So what we decided to do was, it's called a sprigging process for the greens. And what we did, you see in this picture, is you kill off the existing, what little grass that we had that was existing, till and aerate the greens and get them ready for the sprigging process. And the next few pictures will take you through that. So these are what the greens looked like before the sprigging process. And on July 16th of this year, we sprigged the Sunday dwarf Bermuda grass, which is a hybrid dwarf Bermuda, especially made for the greens of golf courses. And the dwarf Bermuda we got is certified from Clemson University. So they've done a lot of research on this grass. And what you see in this picture is the crew coming with they're called rhizomes, is what they're putting out right there, with the rhizomes of the Sunday dwarf Bermuda. And they're installing it. It comes refrigerated in a truck in those burlap sacks that you see. So they're putting it out. And then after you put it out, in the bottom picture there, you'll see the tractor actually tills it into the soil. And they're putting it out up top and tilling it in the bottom. And then after tilling, we top dress it with the sand, and that adheres it into the soil that's been prepared with the fertilizer and is ready for those rhizomes. And again, you see another picture of them top dressing it. And then of course, after the top dressing, there's the water. And these greens had to be watered during daylight hours every 5 minutes, every hour, for 3 days. And then of course, heavily watered after that. So this is a week one, not a whole lot to see, but you'll start to see a little bit of the grass coming up. Week one here, not a whole lot to see again. Another picture of week one. And then week two, you'll notice a little more green on there, a little more grass coming up. Another picture of week two. You can really see the grass coming up on this picture, week two. And then week two, amazingly enough, we had enough grass growing, as you'll see in this picture, that this is the first haircut or grass clipping. This is day 14. So this is how fast the sprigs and these rhizomes actually grow. And that's our new superintendent, David Pulley, doing the cutting there. And this is week 3. So as you'll see, week 3, it really took off. And they have to cut it, he cut it about every 3 days. And that, so it spreads out instead of having that vertical growth that we all like to see in our yard. We don't want that for the greens. Another picture of week 3. And then this is a picture of our temporary holes. And these are what the customers used this summer when we started the sprigging process, which these look 100% better than the greens that we had beforehand. And a lot of customers actually like these. They like the short game, and we had a few hole-in-ones with these. And here we are at week 3. Week 3, you can see a dramatic difference of the grass starting to come in. And week 4, of course, more grass coming in. Another picture of week 4. There's hole 17 that I keep going back to. Week 4. And week 5. Week 5 is really taking off. Another picture of week 5, and you can see the nice designs that David's mowing into that green. And you'll see just a few areas where it's it's not filling in. We'll show you a picture here in a few minutes of this week. Again, there's another picture of 5, that's hole 17. And again, the process, I keep showing you hole 17, weeks 1, 3, 4, 5, and 6. And then this, actually this should be week 7 instead of 6, but this is week 7, and the greens are looking very, very nice. They've almost all filled in. Another picture, this is supposed to be 7, not 6, but you'll see a tremendous difference from where we started from. And then this is Dan Russo is the first gentleman you see, and then David Pulley is our superintendent, and then Wayne Johnson is on the right there. And again, back to actually week 7, we hope we're actually going to open these greens next week for play, and then we're going to have a huge celebration and a PR push in October, as John was saying, and get people out there playing, get our members back, get some revenue going. So this is where we are.
Keep in mind, the cycle NC is going to be the 3rd and the 4th. There's 1,100 bicyclers going to be around Oak Island. Sports guys.
Oh, yes,
girl
definitely.
guys.
Oh, we are gonna
Okay.
heavily promote the golf course.
Yeah.
They wanna ride a bike, so golf
Yep,
is
we'll tell them all about our little par 3. Go over there and have a good
something
time.
else to do. So,
I'd like to make one more comment. if you don't mind, is with the committee and all discussion within the committee, one of the items that came up with the business plan was a coordination effort that we had with facilities management doing one part, Rebecca's team from Parks and Rec doing the other part. And we thought there was a little bit of conflict, maybe a little bit of miscommunication at times. So in the committee, we brought up the fact and asked Rebecca about it, if she would mind taking on the whole burden of the golf course with her staff. And I must tell you, it took about 2 minutes for her to say, yeah, I'll do it. And I will tell you, her staff in her office and her people are doing an outstanding job. Besides the people who would have been with facilities, now are with Parks and Recs. She's taken control of this complete golf course and her staff, and she has done an outstanding job. I must tell her. She hears that from me.
Thank you.
Roseanne Fortner, co-chair of the Beach Preservation Trust Fund Advisory Board, with committee report. We have for you tonight one invitation and one recommendation. The invitation first. Our next activity this month will be to participate in the International Coastal Cleanup. But our beach is clean. You've seen the beach, right? It's the cleanest it's ever been. We have people that are out there picking it up all the time, the beach access parents, the ambassadors, our wonderful citizens who just care. But there's still a time that we need to show that to other people, and that is through reporting real numbers. The International Coastal Cleanup Day, September 19th, is when we count the stuff that we pick up. And that means every cigarette butt, every Slurpee straw, pop lid, Ziploc bag, bait cup, everything that we find has a form place that we put it on for all of the volunteers that assist with the International Coastal Cleanup. Everybody in the world does this form, and then we put together a total list of places and types of debris, and it gives us a picture of how well people are doing worldwide in taking care of coastal environments. So our part is really important. So if you love the beach, or the money it brings in, or the turtles it brings, or the recreation it supports, or the climate it assures us, you need to be involved. Your good intentions still have to be coordinated, though. If you just go out, you're going to find a clean beach, and there's not going to be anything to pick up if you go to some places. So we would like for you, if you intend to help us, and you're expected to because it's your beach, if you're going to help us, we would like for you to coordinate where to go. The beach access parents are very proud of what they do. They don't want you coming in and taking credit for their work, all right? So they're going to tell me whether they're going to do their access or not. If they're not available that weekend to do it, September 19th is a Saturday, you can clean on either side of that and still report your data within a few days. If they're not going to do it, then I'll assign somebody to their spot. So what we're going to try to do is to coordinate through using the Beach Preservation's, not website, but the email address that we have. It's one single word, beachpreservationoi@gmail.com. And I will answer those comments that come in. I want to clean. Where can I go? Give me a few days. By the 15th, by this time next week, I will know which of our beach access parents are going to participate. And then I'll know where the gaps are. There will always be gaps on Beach Drive, you know. Our access parents don't follow through on that one, but we do have some volunteers from Duke Energy that are going to be coming on the 18th, and we may even have that part cleaned up. So please check with Beach Preservation OI at gmail.com to find out where to go to get some debris that you can report. The trash collection forms are over here on the table, or I'll send you one online, or you can pick it up at the rec center, or you can pick it up from a group of volunteers from Beach Preservation who will be at the Cabana Saturday the 19th from 9 to noon. High tide is at noon. So is the high sun. So get that job done early. Turn in your form by the 22nd. Back here, downstairs to our mailbox or to the rec center, and let us know what you found. We need for you to be specific. If you tell us, I found a whole bunch of cigarette butts, that is not helpful, okay? Count them. It is a nasty process. Count them, okay? Take your rubber gloves, take your grabber, other kinds of things to help you get through this process. But we want to know what's out there and where it is so that we can be watching for it in the future. Thanks for your volunteering to help with this process on the 19th.
Thanks.
Okay, now so much for the invitation. Now for the recommendation to council. They have in their packets a recommendation for rinsing stations, AKA showers, at a few beach accesses, just so we can see how they work. They have, the town manager and the public works director have talked about this a lot, and they know what not to do at one of these showers. They don't want a garden hose lopped over a beam so that people can just stand under it and leave it running and drive off. They don't want one that will become a huge hazard, a mess around it and so forth. They know the kinds of things that will be the best types of rinsing stations to put at these areas. Do we need rinsing stations? When was the last time you came off the beach ready to go into your house? My house doesn't have an outdoor shower. My house is on the Davis Canal, and I have to walk across the 29th Nature Trail half a mile with my salty swimsuit and my sandy feet to get to a place where I can rinse off. I would really like to have one at 29 East. So we do need those kinds of things. Other beach communities have them. That's an amenity that would be a very nice enhancement. The Beach Preservation Trust Fund could support some of these on a pilot basis. The trust fund at the end of the last fiscal year had $95,000 in it for beach preservation and education projects. Each one of the beach rinsing stations would be $1,500, we've been quoted. We think a starting point of four of those or 5 of those would be great, and wouldn't it be super if each of the major rental agencies matched that and came up with some more of the rinsing stations that we could put out. So we've given the proposal to council, and we hope that they will consider as soon as possible taking action on it so that those can be put into place and all of the logistics taken care of by the time the next season rolls around. Okay. Thank you. Yes.
Mr. Holloman, please, if you don't mind, in the next month or two, work and see if council would approve that expenditure from the trust fund, okay? And I kind of like those locations they've noted. I use 29th a lot walking.
And just on a side note, on some of these showers they're talking about, they might seem a little pricey, but they have automatic shut-offs, so the water's not running all the time, which is very important. And
Cool.
so, they're a little bit more heavy-duty than just PVC pipe and some attachments, so they are a little bit more expensive, but they do a good job.
Good.
Right.
And I, year before last, remember I took my little foster dog, Troy, the one that's puppy mill dog, I didn't go, the beach was clean, it was close to high tide. I went to the intersection of Beach Drive and Southeast 40th, where they have a little convenience store. I picked up 273 cigarette butts on those corners, and over a dozen cans of soda, and half a dozen of those cardboard boxes that frozen shrimp come in, and all kinds of other stuff. But just on those four little corners. You don't have to go out on the beach. Go on some of these streets and the accesses. Pete, once you get in touch with everybody that came up tonight and oppose the offshore drilling, and tell them I want them front and center on the 19th, 9 to 12 a.m., going out and picking up trash, and let's get it in from Oak Island, okay? That's your assignment.
Excellent.
Okay.
It's all connected, right?
And Roseanne, that is the same day as Big Toy Day, so.
Yes, it is,
Yeah,
but-
Big Toy Day, it doesn't start until like 10 o'clock or so. So
Get
they
your
can
done
already
early.
be out and about to go over there.
Right.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Any other committee reports? Okay, administrative reports. Mr. Holloman, please.
Mayor, just to follow up on what Roseanne said about the Duke Energy volunteers, Magna's been working for that group. They're supposed to have 150 volunteers in here that Friday, so not this Friday, but the following Friday. I think they may also be doing some rock picking as well, so,
Oh, good,
and that's all I have, Madam Mayor.
okay. Maybe we can look at, I don't know if, Roseanne, we stopped having the rock picking parties because the rocks were kind of covered up, but it seems like they've been uncovered again. Do you think it would be?
They come and go, and if we have this group remove rocks, we're going to have to go out on the 17th and make sure that there are rocks visible, okay?
Right.
And we've offered to do that, so we'll be making sure that there's something there for them, if there's something there for them.
Okay.
But resuming rock picking parties is not a discussion for turtle season, so
Oh, yeah.
we'll talk about that in the winter.
Okay.
Okay.
Mr. Eads, please.
Just quickly, the Emerald Isle case, we've talked about for about 3 years now. We argued that in the Court of Appeals on August 24th, and it implicates what municipalities can and can't do on the dry sand beach. I'll let you know when the Court of Appeals hands down its opinion. I anticipate 90 to 120 days.
Okay. That's it. Let's take a quick break. It's going on 9 o'clock before we go into old and new business. That won't take very long.
Your ears up.
Okay, we will call the meeting back to order. Next on the agenda is old business, and there is none. And after that is new business. Excuse me, I'm sorry, Mr. Holloman. You wanted to make a note about an item on the consent agenda?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Just to kind of recap, the general fund refinancing, which has nothing to do with utility refinancing. Amount to be refinanced is $8,168,000. The town, by doing this, will have all the general fund debt paid off in 5 years. And the total savings is $784,000 after about $20,202 in fees. So
$784,000?
$784,000.
Cool.
Yes, Madam Mayor. So just to pass it along, if people have more detailed questions, I'll be glad to answer those.
What was the total amount of refinancing?
$8,168,137.
Good job.
Refinancing 4 loans, the police department's 2, the fire station, everything but Yopon Pier. Yopon Pier is going to be paid off in 4 years anyway. And like I said, the fire trucks are separate from that, but we'll be in good shape and saving a lot in interest. And we were able to get an interest rate about half of what we have now.
You know what I'd like to do at the October meeting? See if you can look back, because I know the council paid off some debt early in 2013 fiscal year. I think we did in 2014 also. Look at those, and let's tally up the total savings on municipal debt and the enterprise fund debt that were set, the amount of interest savings that we have saved because of the council action on those. I'd like to see a grand total, because I know that the enterprise debt, the sewer debt, we're saving $5.2 million in present dollars. Okay.
Yes, Madam Mayor, we can do that. That's all I have.
Oh, thank you for making a note of that. And thank the staff for working hard to get that refinancing done.
It's taken a while. It took BB&T a while to come around.
Yeah. New business, the consideration of the proposed amendments to the town ordinances, Section 8, and adoption of minimum housing ordinances. Steve, if you don't mind, I'm sure the council's going to have questions for you. Council members, do you have questions for Steve? You
I
want to make a
don't.
motion? Oh, okay. Never mind. We don't need. Would you like to make a motion?
Madam Mayor?
Please.
I move to approve the text amendments as submitted adopt the minimum housing ordinance and make the associated changes to the fiscal year 2015-16 fee schedule as proposed.
I have a motion by Counselor Painter. Do I have a second by Counselor Scott? Any further discussion? All those in favor, please. It is unanimous. Mr. Eads, Mr. Holloman, this would adopt the minimum housing ordinances. Would this, the ones that already exist, would this apply to them? There's nothing about grandfathering or anything, is there?
They don't conflict. We had unsafe buildings. This is an additional ordinance, so they're not in conflict.
Okay.
Is that what you're talking about? You're talking about existing houses that are?
Existing houses that are uninhabitable.
No, this would apply
If we adopt these minimum housing ordinances, do they automatically come under those?
Yes.
Okay. Okay, next on new business, consideration of amendment to section 14-31, certain conditions declared public nuisances. Council member have a motion or have discussion, please? Go ahead. You might as well. You made all of them tonight.
I make a motion to amend section 14-31, certain conditions declared public nuisances by adding subsection 11 as presented.
Motion by Counselor
Second.
Painter, second by Counselor Scott and Counselor Kaiser, please. Well, they did it simultaneously.
I guess that was a second and a third.
Any further
then.
discussion, please?
Mayor, we have a couple of changes.
Okay.
In the section 14-31 about, well, it's 3 lines up from the bottom, that sentence that begins the existence of any of the following.
This says what? What page are you on?
97.
97.
3 lines up from the bottom to the kind of middle right of the page, the sentence that begins the existence of any of the following. I recommend that we change that language to read as follows: upon a finding by the town manager or his or her designee of the existence of any of the following.
Okay.
In other words, there's got to be a finding of it.
Or his designee.
And that's a due process concern.
Counselor Painter, would you like to amend your motion to add that wording, please? Please.
Yes, I would.
Well, yes, I'm sorry, there was
got
one
more?
more change.
Okay.
On the next page, 3rd line down, subsection B, swimming pools must be properly maintained. What's that? I scratched mine out.
You just scratch coordinated. They just scratch out
Yeah, I think
properly
we-
maintained schedules.
We need to, I recommend we delete the words with chlorinated schedules, because some pools don't use chlorine. I mean, there's saltwater pools now, and
Okay.
it allows any additional technology. You won't have to change this every time something comes out. Just strike that part.
Okay.
Brian, look at this too. Section 1431-97, it says, "It shall be unlawful for any person to create a nuisance on his lot." Well, if it's not a him.
Well, I mean,
Just put on the lot.
they're,
How about on the lot?
all statutes are deemed unisex, or however you want.
Right, it
But,
should,
yeah, it can, if you want to change his or her, or the, or a.
Why don't you say, to create a nuisance on a lot or a lot on a vacant or a vacant or occupied lot?
Or you have to know who's the owner.
I think you can leave it and do his or her.
Just put
I mean,
his.
because you also
his
can have
Right.
slash her.
His slash her, okay.
You can have corporate entities own lots. I mean, the way the
Right.
courts will look at that is the lot owner is the he.
Is the
whether
he.
it's a she or a it.
It's a she, he.
Okay.
Okay.
Be careful.
I know. My brother was
See, like it is, yeah.
learning the pronouns, he, she, and it. He was talking, doing it with my mom one night.
It's okay, it's okay.
Okay, his or her. By him or her.
Madam Mayor,
Please.
I amend my motion to say, I make a motion to amend section 14-31, certain conditions declared public nuisances by adding subsection 11 as amended.
We have a second on her amended motion, please. Yes. All those approve the amended motion. Okay, and all those that approve the motion as amended by the amended motion. Don't we have to vote on?
Yes.
You have to vote on the amendment and on the motion.
Correct.
All those in favor of the motion as amended? And it is unanimous. Okay. Chair will entertain a motion to go into closed session, and please note the paragraphs, Councilor Painter.
Madam Mayor, I move that we go into closed session to consult with the town attorney on pending and potential litigation and specific personnel pursuant to NCGS 143-318.11A3 and 6.
I have a motion by Councilor Painter. Do I have a second by Councilor Weinkauf? All those in favor? Please excuse us for a few minutes. We will call the meeting back to order. Council took no action in closed session unless any council member has any business remaining to discuss. Chair will entertain a motion to adjourn, please.
Let's go home.
Motion by Councilor Kaiser, second by Councilor Scott. All those in favor? Thank you.